Sometimes homebuyers want to know where's better to move, Penticton or Vernon. Today we're going to look at the pros and cons of both cities, and at the end of the video I will tell you how to download our free relocation package, so make sure you stick around. Vernon and Penticton, as you may or may not know, are located at opposite ends of Okanagan Lake in the Okanagan Valley, with the main city of the Okanagan being Kelowna in the central Okanagan between the two. I'm Lisa Salt with Remax Vernon Salt Fowler, and I was born and raised on the north end of Okanagan Lake in Vernon, and I hope I can shed some light on the difference between these two cities for you. The answer to the question, where is the better city to live, Penticton or Vernon, is it depends on where you stand on these 8 factors. Number 1, let's start with size. Let's look at the size of both of these cities. That often gives folks an indication of what is most comfortable for them from a population standpoint. Penticton is 36,884 people as of 2021, and the South Okanagan, which includes all the little cities from Summerland all the way through to Princeton, it's a really big area actually, that population is a total of 123,487. Vernon's population, 44,519, which actually doesn't include Coldstream, which is its own municipality, however still part of Greater Vernon. That's another 11,171 folks. So let's say in total 55,500 people. Looking at the entire area, the entire North Okanagan, which includes the outlying rural areas of Armstrong, Enderby, Lumbee, Falkland, etc., is around 93,425 as of 2021. In a nutshell, Greater Vernon is larger than Penticton by about 50%. However, the North Okanagan itself is about 24% smaller than the South Okanagan. But it's a lot smaller area too. For the purposes of this analysis though, we're really only going to look at Penticton itself. So let's say Penticton, smaller, Vernon, bigger. At one time, Penticton was larger than Vernon actually way back in the day, however not anymore. This brings us once again to analyzing factor number 2, which is amenities. Generally, you would expect the larger city to have more stuff, more amenities. And in this comparison, Penticton has many of the same amenities actually as Vernon does. They're very similar. Both cities have regional airports, although Penticton's airport is much larger and actually has scheduled flights to the hubs of Vancouver, Calgary, and Edmonton, with WestJet, Air Canada, and Pacific Coast Airlines. Very impressive. Vernon has flights going to, well, nowhere. There's no passenger airlines out of Vernon. You have to drive the 30 minutes or so to Kelowna. It's not so far. However, in this comparison, Penticton wins on the airport front if you want a short haul flight to any of those major hubs that I mentioned. It would be convenient. Neither has a Costco, so both cities have to drive to load up at the $500 store. They have similar size hospitals, a lot of the same amenities, so we don't really learn anything in the amenities department. So let's go on to number 3. How about employment? If I needed a job and I had to choose between Vernon and Penticton, I think I'd try to check elsewhere entirely. Both aren't easy to find a high-paying job. In Vernon, the major industries are tourism, professional service sector, agriculture, construction, some manufacturing, not much, and forest products. And although Vernon doesn't have a lot of those quote-unquote industries, there are some very cool made in Vernon success stories such as Cal Tire, Okanagan Springs Brewery, and Tolko Industries. And if you can get a job with any of those companies, man, you are in great shape. Penticton has apparently 1/3 of its employment coming from the public sector. Then there's retail trade, there's manufacturing, agriculture, wineries, quite a few wineries, we'll talk about that in a minute, construction, and of course, neither city has a ton of high-paying great jobs. So I would say in this category, Penticton and Vernon are once again a push. Number 4, let's look at water. Penticton has 2 beautiful lakes, and in fact is one of the only 2 cities in the world situated between 2 lakes. Did you know that? I did not know that. One lake, of course, which is shared with Vernon, Okanagan Lake, like we talked about earlier. Vernon's on the north end of Okanagan, Penticton is on the south end. Back in the day, the steamships would pick up people, mail, and food. They'd pick them up in Vernon and drop them off at various places along the lakeshore and ended up in Penticton, and then they'd go back again. Okanagan Lake is 84 miles long, whereas the other lake in Penticton, Skaha Lake, is only 7.3 miles long, and it spans from Penticton south to Okanagan Falls. Skaha Lake Park, which is 21 acres on Skaha Lake, is recognized as one of Canada's top beaches. Also, the water is warmer than Okanagan Lake, so lucky Skaha. Alternatively, Vernon has 3 lakes: Okanagan, which again, shared with Penticton and Kelowna, Kalamalka, and Swan. All of these lakes are close in from downtown Vernon. It's literally 8 minutes to every one of these 3 lakes. Kalamalka is Vernon's Skaha. It's our second smaller lake in Coldstream, which back in the 60s, our claim to fame, National Geographic stated, was in the top 10 most beautiful lakes in the world. Kalamalka means lake of many colors, and it's outstanding in the summer. It's so incredibly beautiful when it's performing at its peak. Kalamalka is just under 10 miles long. And then third, we have Swan Lake in Vernon, which is a more stagnant lake that is smaller. It's more of a nature reserve area. Skaha is a really nice lake, but it's tough to compete with Kalamalka for sure. So in the lake department, it depends. It's whatever you choose. Either both cities have Okanagan, and you can choose between Skaha and Kalamalka. One's warmer, one's prettier. We have 4 more factors left, but before we get into those, please make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and like this video, as we're posting new videos every single week. On this channel, we give you the straight goods on Vernon and the whole Okanagan, our ultimate 4 seasons paradise. Whether you're moving in 9 days or 90 days or just curious about the area that we call home, be sure to call, text, or email and just add salt. Continuing on, let's go to ski hills. Let's look at the competing ski hills. Usually we find, in most cases anyways, that Vernon's 27 to 30 minutes to Silver Star is far shorter than other cities' distances to their ski hills, so we usually win. However, in this case, it's pretty much a push. From Penticton to Apex, it's right around 30 minutes also. Apex is a smaller hill. It's quite a challenging hill, and the big advantage is you don't have near the lineups that you do at Silver Star, or Big White in Kelowna for that matter. In contrast, the village at Silver Star is much larger than Apex. At Apex, you have a couple of restaurants, a general store, a pub, and a ski shop. Whereas at Silver Star, it has the village, and it is huge. It's got tons of amenities, hotels, shopping, real estate. So less stuff to do at Apex than at Silver Star for the family. Oh, and plus Silver Star, I should mention, has skating and Tube Town, a bowling alley, like the whole deal. Apex gets 600 centimeters of snow every year with 67 named runs and 4 chairs. Silver Star gets 700 more snow each year with 132 marked trails and 12 total lifts. Both are nice hills though, one smaller and less crowded being Apex, Silver Star being bigger with more stuff to do in a bigger village. Number 6, let's look at climate. Penticton is a little warmer all year round, so it's hotter in the summer and then less snow in the winter. So it depends on what you want. The average annual rainfall for Vernon is 333 millimeters versus Penticton at 298.5, putting Penticton at the 4th driest city in Canada. Snowfall in Vernon is 93.3 centimeters versus 58.7 in Penticton. Like I said, less snow in Penticton as you go further south. And then we always say the sunny Okanagan. Both cities have lots of sun in the summer, both in the Okanagan. However, in total sunshine hours, Vernon has 2,026 hours of sunshine on average per year versus Penticton 1,923, lower than you may expect for both cities. However, both cities, it's because of the temperature inversion in the winter that sits in the whole Okanagan Valley. It leaves a layer of cloud cover at the top of the valley where warm, moist air collides with the cooler, dry air that fills that valley. And remember, Vernon is on one end of the valley and Penticton's on the other end of that same valley. So that inversion in the winter is going to be similar, and it's going to affect our total sunshine hours. Those high daytime temperatures throughout the summer months mean that Penticton has, on average, the second most number of days in a year over 30 degrees. Second to Kamloops, actually, and is also the city that has the lowest amount of fog in all of Canada. Very cool, I didn't know that. Number 7, let's look at house prices. Our analysis obviously isn't complete until we look at how much it costs to buy real estate in both places. Average house price in Vernon as of February 2024 is benchmark price $728,100 and Penticton $670,700. Close, however, Vernon's prices do come in a bit higher than Penticton's. Townhouses are higher on average in Vernon, however, apartment condos came in on average lower in Vernon than Penticton, so I guess it ultimately depends on what you are looking to buy. Number 8, let's look at fun stuff to do. One of the number one fun things to do in Penticton is to float down the channel between the two lakes. It does look like fun. 7 kilometers from Skaha to Okanagan Lake, and one of these days I'm going to get out and try it. Vernon doesn't have a float, although Enderby does, and we're pretty close to Enderby. You can float down the Shuswap River from Maple Lake to Mara Lake. That's also fun. This one, the float in Enderby, in comparison to the Penticton float, is entirely a natural waterway. Another fun thing people tend to like to do is drink, just generally. And Penticton definitely has easier access to booze. Penticton is apparently 20 minutes from 90 wineries, 8 craft breweries, plus easy access to 2 cideries and 3 distilleries. Penticton is actually the craft beer capital of Canada, with more craft beer places per capita than any other city. Now Vernon is not the craft beer capital, although it does have a cool craft beer place right downtown, Martin Brewing Company. I would highly recommend it. And then that's it actually. Well, Okanagan Spring Brewery is in Vernon, not craft beer though, but it is there. Wine. No wineries in Vernon. However, go 20 minutes and you're at the Scenic Sip, a cool collection of wineries that's close by. Not right in Vernon though. Surprisingly, there are no wineries in Vernon. Distilleries, there's Okanagan Spirits and Vernon Craft Distillery, 2. Cider, there's Cambium Cidery and Farmstrong, just in Spalmachine, which is, both places are tons of fun. Oh, and we also have the Honeymoon Meadery at Planet Bee Honey Farm, so there's that. One last thing that Penticton has that I think is very cool is they have the Sicamous Museum and Heritage Park, which is a museum right on the lake inside the old SS Sicamous paddle wheeler, which is the largest surviving paddle wheeler in Canada. It's right in Penticton. It's open as a heritage site, a museum, and you can get married there too. That is cool. You can get an idea of what it was like to travel along Okanagan Lake on the paddle wheelers back in the day, back in the early 1900s. I highly recommend a visit there. Other than that, both cities have rail trails. Penticton has the Kettle Valley Rail Trail. Vernon has just the rail trail. And both have lots of outdoor activities. The swimming, the sailing, the hiking, the biking, the beautiful provincial parks and the beaches. Many of the outdoor activities are similar, being that they're both in the Okanagan. Really, Penticton and Vernon are just over an hour and a half apart. That is driving on a good day, not in the middle of summer. During high tourist season, you're not going to get to and from in an hour and a half. Then it's somewhat longer of a distance. So the distance is the same, but the time isn't. Too much traffic. And there are our 8 factors to look for at Vernon versus Penticton. Where should you live, Vernon or Penticton? It depends. To me, Penticton is too small and too hot. However, for others, they might like that, things being a little bit quieter with less snow and a bit easier access to Okanagan wineries. In reality, you can't go wrong with either area. They are both beautiful parts of the Okanagan Valley. If, however, you would like to know more about Vernon, please download our free relocation package at vernonrelocation.com.